Bernie concedes to the inevitable. Does this guarantee a Trump re-election? Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, I was greeted today with a text from a friend of the channel, Middle America, the big homie Alec. If you want to interact with the great Alec, or the great Isabel Jimenez, or the great Matthew Maida, or the great Cassia, all you have to do, dear listener, is join us at facebook.com/America Middle, and you will be entered into the portal where all these wonderful, beautiful characters reside. Anyway, Alec sends me a text that says, Sanders dropped out. And I looked at it, and I put it back down, and I continued on my day. I made a point not to go to Facebook, and not to go to Middle America, because I knew what was going to ensue. So this video is just going to be me kind of just saying whatever comes into my head, because look, I have been predicting this literally for years. I had made the argument that the entire reason for the Russiagate nonsense and the impeachment nonsense was 4 years of distraction strategy, because they knew good and well what they were going to do with Bernie, that they were never going to allow Bernie to have the nomination. And they were going to use 4 years of demonizing Trump in order to set up whoever stooge they had for the nomination. It was originally Biden was the front runner. Then they flirted with Kamala, but Tulsi took down Kamala. And then for a while it was Mayor Pete with the whole Iowa fiasco. But when the endorsement happened in South Carolina, and he was able to score that win, it's clear now Obama made the phone call, and that's all she wrote. All the establishment Dems coalesced around their candidate, like good soldiers, and all the progressives, the so-called progressives, were still doing the individual game. I think by that time, no, Andrew Yang hadn't conceded yet, but he bowed out pretty soon after that, and we know that Elizabeth Warren to this moment has said nothing in response to the constant calls and the begging and pleading of progressives to get on board with Bernie. They didn't coalesce around Bernie. He was left to himself. Bernie then went on TV on numerous occasions talking about how Biden was a good guy, even though he was an ardent segregationist and didn't want his kids in a racial jungle. We already covered that. He kept talking about how Biden was a good guy and how he was going to be able to beat Trump. Okay. And so here we go. Bernie Sanders is... we will literally never see this again in our lifetime, because it's impossible to replicate him. He's been saying the same thing as regards healthcare and things like that in Wall Street for 45 years. And for the most part, he was able to maintain his integrity and not be a politician. And one of the things I tell people all the time who work with me or whoever's on a team with me, I always say the best thing about a person is the worst thing about a person. It was great that Mr. Sanders was not a politician in the sense of being deceptive and being cunning and being cynical and having no soul and doing anything to gain power. But it was also exposed, not so much in the previous election cycle, because that was just highway robbery. But he was definitely exposed in this go-around as an eminently weak politician. He did not know how to leverage his power, and he wouldn't say the things that needed to be said in the aggressive tone and manner that it needed to be done. He did not hold the DNC accountable for what they did in the previous election cycle. He went along with the Russiagate nonsense. He went along with the impeachment nonsense. He played right into their hand. He talked about how, you know, we've already talked about this. One of the reasons I didn't want to shoot this video is because there's really not much I can say differently from what I've said as to why Bernie lost, and I'm not going to do the postmortem anymore, so we're moving on. Here's Trump's Twitter account. Bernie is out. Thank you, Elizabeth Warren. If not for her, Bernie would have won almost every state on Super Tuesday. This ended just like the Democrats and the DNC wanted. Same as the crooked Hillary fiasco. The Bernie people should come to the Republican Party. Trade, all caps. Now, when he says trade, one wonders, does he mean trade being a DNC person and trade sides in a GOP person? Or is he saying, I am better on trade than Biden, which, as you recall, you know, in that leaked audio where Trump talked about the only person he was really concerned about was Bernie, because Bernie was great on trade. And Hillary was a disaster on trade because of the NAFTA stuff. Well, what do you think is going to happen in the general, in the debates, when NAFTA and TPP shows up in the debate discussion? How do you think Biden's going to do with that? You're going to have a split between CNN and Fox News, etc., as to who hosts the debate. So my theory on the last debate was that he was given, he was prepped 5 days ahead and prepped for all the questions and all the rest of it. And you can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, but Hillary Clinton was the most intellectually agile and acute presidential candidate I've ever seen in my life. And even she was given questions beforehand and was able to cogitate on the answers beforehand because of the Democratic establishment. So what do you think happened with Biden? Well, that's not going to happen when Fox News hosts the debate for Biden. And he's already signaling to us what he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about trade. And all those middle Americans in Ohio and all the rest of it, when Trump elucidates Mr. Biden's support of TPP and the rest of it, forget it. Unbelievable. So here's Trump appealing to Bernie supporters, and say what you want, but I think, you know, here's what happens. Here's how tone deaf the DNC actually is. You have two massively influential podcasters or video bloggers. You've got Joe Rogan, who represents the sort of good-natured, meat-eating American intellectual who's an independent, who comes out this week and says, I can't vote for Biden. Okay? Like, if it's between Biden and Trump, I'm going to vote for Trump. Now, he's later clarified this and said, look, if it was Biden versus a mannequin, I would vote for the mannequin. But you see the point. Here's Joe Rogan, who symbolizes the sort of center-right, maybe, independent, sort of regular Joe, regular guy, saying he can't vote for Biden, and he's going to vote for Trump. Then on the other hand, you have Jimmy Dore, who is the voice of what I call the street-level progressive. See, TYT, Kyle Kalinske, all those guys, okay, fine, they've done great things for the progressive movement, sure, whatever. I'm not a progressive, so I can't comment either way, but you cannot deny that TYT, Kyle Kalinske, I'd even put Sam Sater in there. These guys have been able to shape progressive thought over the last 4 to 6 years. But these guys are not street-level progressive. These are super intellectual. Again, people are going to go crazy on me for saying TYT are super intellectual. But these are people in an ivory tower. Can we at least agree on that? Cenk and Anna and the rest of that crew, they do not strike you as a regular Joe progressive. And neither does Sam Sater. You know who does? Jimmy Dore. What has Jimmy Dore been doing this whole week? He's been lambasting Bernie Sanders. Why? Well, we all know why. Because of the inevitable fact that that Bernie has conceded all of his power to the DNC because of he's got this strange weakness and desire to be liked and accepted by these people. Bernie didn't learn the lesson from Hillary Clinton's treatment of him in 2016. So he's kind of like one of those guys in school where good guy, smart guy, and you know he's going to rule the world, you know, when we get out of high school. But he's one of those guys that just wants to be in with the captain of the football team, even though it's like this guy is going to be working he's going to be working for you in a couple years. Why do you want his approval? Doesn't matter. And Bernie, I'm sorry, but that's kind of the vibe I got. But okay, so when you look at how Jimmy Dore has been treating Bernie. Now Jimmy Dore, he's a progressive. He's a street level progressive. So Jimmy Dore is saying, hey, I'm not voting for Trump. I can't do that. Although Trump outlefted Bernie with this health crisis situation where Trump, you know, in the last video I shot, where Trump is basically hinting at a form of like an emergency Medicare for all type of thing that he did off the cuff in the middle of a 3-hour discussion. I mean, that was not something where he was like front and centering that to try to manipulate people. It was part of his coronavirus meeting. It was 3.5 hours long, and I just happened to pull the clip. But even in that perspective, Trump, you know, ostensibly was able to outleft Biden, and Biden has been going around giving the finger to Bernie supporters every time Medicare for All comes up. We brought that up in the last video as well. We've got 2 or 3 clips in saying, no, I would veto Medicare for All. I'd veto it. So you got Biden doing that, but then you got Trump saying it's not fair that you've got people in that donut hole, the 28 million Americans who aren't covered. And so here's Trump reaching out to the Bernie folks immediately. And you know what's going to happen? He's going to get some people. Now, you know why? Because he's going to get those Joe Rogan people. And anybody, so Joe Rogan's like a right, kind of center right-ish, independent, kind of common sense guy. And then you've got Jimmy Dore on this side. And Trump's never going to get the Jimmy Dore people. But I'm going to tell you something. Everybody from here to sort of the middle point here, he's going to get him. He's going to get him because he's showing that he's going after them. And by the way, this entire election cycle, Trump has been saying things on behalf of Bernie about the DNC that Bernie refuses to say. Trump has been saying it over and over again. Hey man, they're screwing you. This is terrible what they're doing to Bernie. Yada yada yada. This is they're bullying Bernie. Da 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 da. And then the one time Bernie ever came out with some sort of aggression and angst on Twitter was he was going after Trump, saying basically, "You're the only bully here. I don't need you to defend me. Mind your own business." Okay. I don't think Trump was saying all these things in support of Bernie because he actually cared about what the DNC was doing to Bernie. I do think 2 things. One is Trump knows that as long as there's a civil war in the DNC, then he benefits. And 2, he's trying to woo the Bernie supporters. Now, again, you can say whatever you like about Trump and all these people. You can call them idiots all you like. I guarantee you, for the most part, Trump is smarter than you and me. I guarantee you that. The way that he is able to project human behavior, the way that he is able to manipulate human behavior. Look, Donald Trump has convinced millions of people. Here's Donald Trump, which is the epitome of privilege in the United States. A white, male, cisgendered, American-born and bred guy who inherited millions and millions of dollars. This guy is the pinnacle of privilege, if you want to talk about identity politics. And yet, he has found a way to present himself as the underdog who's being bludgeoned by the man. You know, a couple months ago, he put out this sort of superimposed picture of his head on Rocky Balboa's body. And there are all these news outlets trying to, you know, like mocking and saying, why is he doing this? Yada, yada, yada. Hello, don't you understand what Rocky Balboa is? Rocky Balboa is an underdog. He's a white male underdog who beat a black guy, by the way. There's a lot of subliminal messaging there. Why? because the DNC had been going after him for all this impeachment stuff and all this Zelensky stuff. And the DNC has found a way to successfully make Donald Trump an underdog when he's got the epitome of all privilege in the world. So now he's reaching out to Bernie supporters saying, hey, I'm a fellow underdog, man. I know how you guys feel. I got screwed by the DNC for 4 years. Oh, did they tell you? Did they tell your guy that he was a Russian asset? Me too. They did it to me too. Get it? Me too? Speaking of Me Too, notice how CNN, MSNBC, etc. still aren't running the Tara situation where, what's the term, credibly accused, where he was credibly accused of penetrating this young lady against her will. And all the Me Too people, Alyssa Milano, who's already been called out for her BS, hypocrisy, and the Time's Up organization, who all are going around circling the wagons and protecting him. Why do you think Fox News is not running stories about this lady? You know why? Fox News isn't running stories about this woman for the same reason that they didn't run the Project Veritas stuff with Bernie's crazy, communist-loving people who were threatening to be violent and send people off to the gulags because, after all, it's a hotel visit. You know why Fox News doesn't run those stories? They didn't know who was going to win. And they're saving that for the general. Let's remember, Donald Trump and his media apparatus are the same people who lined up all the Clinton accusers in the debate of him versus Hillary, and that was to offset the grab them by the junk stuff. What do you think is going to happen in the general? Fox News and all these people, they are holding on to that story because they honestly didn't know who was going to win. For a while, it looked like Bernie was going to win. So they were holding on to the Project Veritas stuff till the general. And now it looked like Biden's going to win. They're holding on to it. How much you want to bet that Fox News, in a month or 2 or 5, is going to have a one-on-one, 1 hour long sit-down with this lady? And look, she doesn't want to be politicized, and I'm pretty sure this woman's a lifelong Democrat. She doesn't want to vote for Trump. But be that as it may, how do you think she feels being abandoned by the left, being abandoned by the leftist media? She's a human being. And that is absolutely a vulnerability every single day that the left-wing media ignores this woman. She can only get on YouTube shows. What do you think is going to happen when she gets that call and she gets that, $1.5 million, whatever, from some secret admirer? You don't think she's going to do a Fox News interview? They got a lot of really nice ladies over there in Fox News, and they've got some sort of co-belligerency because, Fox News went through their own type of sex scandal type situation. And you know what Fox News did? They fired the guy. They fired him. They sent him out to pasture. They fired O'Reilly. Say what you... I don't know if you guys remember this. Don Lemon had a sexual assault type of situation happen, and he's still on Fox News. They didn't even suspend him. But on the right-wing side, when it became absolutely clear that this guy was engaging in some pretty questionable sexual activity, they got rid of him. This young lady is absolutely going to end up on Fox News. They're going to give her a 1 hour special. And I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up on the debate stage, just like in 2016. And again, Hillary Clinton was the most mentally agile and intellectually acute individual I've ever seen on the debate stage. She was able to recover from such a horrible sight. Obviously a very low blow, a very classless thing for Trump to do, but this Trump knows how to do politics. He had Steve Bannon with him, and she was able to recover. What do you think is going to happen if Biden shows up to a debate and there she is in the front row? What do you think is going to happen? And what do you... How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet? What is it? It is April 8th. I'm predicting on April 8th that even more women are going to come forward between now and the election. And it's all going to get broken on Fox News. These silly people in the left-wing media, they think if you do, you do this thing with your kid, you play hide and seek, the kid thinks you can't see him. Hello, left-wing media! Continue to ignore it. What do you think is going to happen? You don't think that his mental decline is not going to be front and center when Trump gets a crack at him? You don't think his sexual escapades with his... I mean, look, man. You got you got Alyssa Milano, who talked about how Kavanaugh was credibly accused. How many of you have seen videos of Kavanaugh encroaching on women's personal space, sniffing their hair, making them all completely uncomfortable, whether they're grown women or teenage girls? How many videos of that have you seen? Zero. And yet Alyssa Milano thought that Kavanaugh was credibly accused. But we've got Joe Biden, who's got a history of making light of sexual assault claims, his interrogation of Anita Hill. You've got him on camera on a numerous amount of occasions making women uncomfortable. But none of the Me Too people are supporting this Tara lady. You know why? Because the DNC has successfully brainwashed these people into believing that Trump is the epitome of evil. And that defeating him is the number one thing. The well-being of the American people is not the number one agenda. Defeating Trump is. So even if you have to deal with a guy who's sexually assaulting people, allegedly, you're going to have to look the other way. Because anything is better than Trump. Well, let's see how that works, Alyssa Milano. Let's see if regular street-level progressives and average Joes like Joe Rogan, let's see if they have the same opinion. I don't... You know what else is really interesting? If Mr. Biden decides that he wants to go all the way woke and choose a woman of color as his running mate. And no, I'm not talking about Kamala Harris. I'm talking about the other woman of color, Elizabeth Warren. What's that you say? Elizabeth Warren is not a woman of color? Whatever do you mean? She's Native American. Isn't that what we were told? So, what's interesting is he goes right after Elizabeth Warren. What if Trump knows that Elizabeth Warren is Joe Biden's running mate? Maybe they can run on, hey, I'm going to be the progressive, and I'm going to balance out the establishment wing of Joe. That works if you're not a horrible sellout who left Bernie Sanders out to dry and lied about him and destroyed your own nomination chances, Liz Warren. So I bet you anything that the DNC is that tone deaf and that silly that they would say, oh yeah, let's match him up with Liz and that'll get the progressives. Wrong. The progressives don't hate Joe Biden. They just look at Joe Biden as just a stooge for, the DNC, an empty suit. They despise Elizabeth Warren for what she did. And what does Trump do? He immediately shouts out Liz Warren. Maybe Trump knows that Liz Warren is going to get the VP nod. And if that's exactly what's happening, then this tweet by Mr. Trump is absolutely brilliant. You keep sleeping on him. Look what else he said. I can't see AOC plus 3 supporting Sleepy Joe. You know why? Because all of those are women. And they all have tweets during this whole Kavanaugh situation. And so what he's doing is he's setting them up to say, oh yeah, we're definitely going to support Biden. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to retweet all the Kavanaugh stuff. All the Kavanaugh stuff, all the stuff that the squad were saying about Kavanaugh, he's going to retweet all that stuff and put them in an impossible situation. You say what you want. This man is playing chess. Believe you me. He specifically called out AOC and the squad, specifically so that he can put them in a situation where they have to respond. All right. Joe Biden is going to get destroyed. He's going to get annihilated in the general election. He's going to get annihilated. I was listening to Sam Seder. I don't really listen. I'm not a fan of the guy. Got to be honest with you. I was listening to Sam Sater. He was talking about how he said we put anybody up there, they're gonna beat Trump. Americans hate Trump. They want him gone. Okay, all right. The same silliness you silly people were saying in 2016. You, Mr. Sater, were a pro-impeachment person. Good for you. Good name. Yeah, I said these are not street level people. These are not people that function on the street level. These are people that are, YouTube personalities, and they don't know anything about the real world. So, I mean, look, we're already getting good news about Corona. It's flattening over there. When I say good news, being a pro-life person, I never want to, trivialize massive loss of life, in dozens and 20s and 30s. But we were talking last week about 100 to 240,000 deaths. And recently, even CNN had to say, well, that might have been an overestimation. New coronavirus projections are better than expected. Researchers predict the coming months won't be as dire as initially feared. Let me tell you something. If we get out of this corona situation with under 100,000 deaths, which is very possible, and the stock market bounces back, that's going to be a massive, massive gold feather in the hat of Mr. Trump. Massive. Say what you want. Say what you want. But especially if 4, 5, 6 months from now, Italy and Spain and all those people are in absolute disarray and mess and destroyed, and we bounce back, especially considering he's kind of piloting a Medicare for all type program because of this coronavirus stuff, and he gets people working again, and he gets rent waivers and all the rest of it, and utility waivers and all the rest of it, and we bounce back by November. Are you kidding me? He's going to end up with a super majority by the time this is all over. And look, Bernie was actually very, very active, although he voted for the stimulus bill, which is a separate issue. He was very active. I think he mobilized like $2.5+ million to the cause. You had Andrew Cuomo, but he's a flash in the pan and really mostly a media creation. When people are polled and they say, okay, who do you think handled the corona situation better, Trump or Biden? Do you know who wins? Trump. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that Biden would be a freaking disaster if he was at the helm of this situation. You know that. Look at the interviews that the man has held since he came out of hiding because Andrew Cuomo was stealing all his heat. Look at it. Look at him. God bless him, but come on, man. 4 weeks ago he was telling people, hey, if you don't show symptoms, go vote. You don't think that's going to come up? You don't think that tweet's going to come up? Anyway, hey. The moral of the story is, in order to have a revolution, you definitely need a mouthpiece for it, but you also need an actual revolutionary. And Bernie Sanders is not a revolutionary. He's absolutely a mouthpiece and a great one, but he was not a revolutionary. That is Donald J. Trump. Fortunately, from where I sit, it's not the type of revolution that's in the best interest of the most Americans. Say it that way. I cannot bring myself to vote for Trump. However, if he is serious about Medicare for all, I'm absolutely going to consider it. Because that's my number one concern. I am pro-life. And anybody who is going to do something to improve the life of Americans, I'm going to take a serious look at. I suggest you do the same. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. We're all we got, guys. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.